And we do have Dr. Youngberg and plenty of staff and teachers with us, probably some community members too. Welcome, everybody. This is the regular Board of Ed meeting on October 28th. I've pushed us ahead already. And I just want to say off the bat that Tracy Lambert will maybe join us before the end of the meeting today. She and Stephanie Garrett are in contract negotiations with union members, staff, which started at 5 p.m. this evening, and it was scheduled to go until 9. So
we're here, Lynn.
What?
Stephanie's actually on the call.
Oh, you made it. Okay, well, Tracy asked me to announce that at the beginning of the meeting, but maybe she'll be joining us soon. Great. I don't see Tracy yet. She on? Okay. Well, we'll get started. The first order of business today is public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak during public comment? You can either let me know in the chat or unmute yourself and ask to speak. Okay. One more chance. Anybody want to speak during public comment? Okay, not hearing or seeing anyone, we'll move on to approval of the Board of Education meeting minutes. And first thing on the agenda is I would entertain a motion to adopt the September 23rd, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Katina, seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Okay, Janet, would you please take a roll call vote?
Ms. Ide.
Aye.
Dr. Galucci.
Aye.
Dr. Gomez. Mr. Doyle.
Aye.
Ms. Lambert. Dr. Caban-Owen.
Aye.
Ms. Ray.
Aye.
Ms. Haney. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item, pardon?
I'm sorry. I had trouble with my iPad, so I'm by phone. If that was for the minutes, then aye.
Okay, Paula, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haney.
You're welcome.
Then the next item is approval of the October 9th, 2020 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion on that?
I'll move that.
Paula made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Katina. All those, I guess we have to do roll call. Janet.
Ms. Ide.
Aye.
Dr. Galucci.
Aye.
Dr. Gomez. Mr. Doyle.
Aye.
Ms. Lambert. Dr. Caban-Owen.
Aye.
Ms. Ray.
Ms. Testa, I was an abstention because I just joined.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert.
Me too.
There's Jaime chiming in.
Same here, Johnny.
Got it. Ms. Ray. Can you unmute, Ms. Ray? She must have stepped away. Ms. Haney?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have enough to approve those, Janet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a ton of things under the superintendent's reports. I just want to start out, when you look at this list, you may think, oh my gosh, we're going to be here ad nauseum this evening, hearing from Dr. Youngberg. I want to point out to the board members that Janet Testa did a wonderful thing and sent us this afternoon a very succinct overview of all the first reading issues on the agenda. And since we won't be taking action on them, when we get to those items, we can take questions if people have them, but we're not going to make Dr. Youngberg and everybody sit through a description of all of those first reading items. We'll just take questions. Does that make sense to the board members? Okay.
Yes.
So, thank you for the thumbs up, Mary. Tracy, it's over to you.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
See thumbs up and head shaking, this is good. I'm going to start off with awards and recognition. Hopefully everybody can see this presentation now. And I want to shout out to Laura, I don't know if Laura's on the call, and Margaret for their help in putting together, as usual, great presentation to celebrate the amazing things that are happening in the district. So thank you very much. We start off with recognizing two of our high school seniors, Isabel Perez, who is pictured here as being a student athlete, but she's actually earned some recognition for her scholarship, scholar for the College Board National Hispanic Recognition Program and the National Rural and Small Town Recognition Program. So congratulations to Isabel Perez, and congratulations to Pascal Phillips Galucci. I know you know that name, sounds familiar. He was recognized by the College Board National Recognition Program for his high PSAT score. So congratulations, Pascal. Nice little smile in that picture. Two of our Windham High School seniors. Windham Pride Coalition donated some family wellness packs, and one of our students, Jamil De Jesus, helped People Services to get those bags together for distribution. There he is in the picture. So we're always happy when we can have our students help out. In this case, he's a member of our core program, which was actually housed here in central office for a little while. It's now been moved over to the middle school, but we were appreciative of his help and of Windham Pride for supporting the families in our community. This is Jose Rodriguez Anaya, who was featured on Telemundo for Hispanic Heritage. I love the background of the classroom, looks amazing behind him. He does an amazing job in his position as a music teacher at Windham Center School, so we're really proud of the recognition. And I know there's some videos floating around that he's been responsible for putting out there, so celebrations for Mr. Rodriguez. Windham Middle School is nominating their school librarian, Valerie Grayback, for an award called I Love My Librarian Award, which I think is the cutest title. She has been instrumental in coordinating the distribution of laptops and helping out basically in all areas of technology. She set up a helpline for students and parents, and she's coordinated the exchange of malfunctioning equipment and has implemented an online library. So kudos to Valerie for that nomination. Many of you know that the district distributed close to 2,000 coats on October 21st. Those coats were donated by Operation Warm. But we had members from Windham Willimantic Cares, the town of Windham, and Windham Recreation Department. Everybody helped to hand out the coats. In addition to the community outreach, the community partners that were involved, there was also a number of staff members involved. So we really appreciate the distribution of those coats. And at the same time, we also handed out to the community COVID care packages to sort of teach the community about how to continue to be safe and limit the transmission of the disease. So thank you to everyone who was involved in this amazing effort. With the coats, as you know, if you were watching our Facebook page, the coats disappeared in about 90 minutes, which is kind of, it's both sad and amazing at the same time. So we're very proud of everyone involved in that. There's the COVID care packages that I just mentioned, and another list of people who helped put those together. They had to stuff all the packages. Cute little guy in the picture. I love it. 2 different shoes, awesome, or slippers, love them. So we appreciate all those staff members. The district is very proud of this group of people in this pictures. Look at the smiles on these in these pictures. These are great pictures, Laura and Margaret. The district is very proud of the Pupil Services Department, the care team, comprised of Sarah Larson, Erica Gallinet, Sue Pinking, Lynn DeMarco, and Whitney McCormick. These professionals have exhibited extraordinary dedication and support, rolling out Windham's new home-based program for our medically complex students, such as the one pictured right there with a big smile on his face. Another big shout out to the health office teams across the district under the leadership of Tara Webb, who's instrumental in our COVID team. All of our school nurses, Kristen Gooden, Christina McClintock, Palmyra Mindek, Lynn Sosa, Donna Brozier, Danette Pilgrim, Casey Pellegrino, and some other licensed practical nurses. They have all become their contact tracing public health warriors. That's not a joke. They really are. They've become the backbone of our response to COVID-19 in the district. So we're celebrating all of our school nurses for the amazing work that they've done this year. Also shouting out again to Windham Willimantic Cares for their donation of water bottles. As you know, from COVID-19, we closed down the water fountains for individual drinking. We only have the water fountains that allow you to fill up bottles for safety purposes. So these water bottle donations came in very handy for our students that might not have had their own. We received a donation of some additional PPE, some masks, 4,000 youth masks and 1,000 adult masks from the Connecticut State Department of Ed, and the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and the Connecticut National Guard. So we're appreciative of those donations. Natchog School is also lucky enough to receive 2 10x10 tents and 2 picnic tables from the Christian Life Assembly of God. So we're very thankful for that donation, particularly at this time when being outdoors, eating outdoors, being underneath the tent outdoors is really important. So thank you for that donation. And Windham Middle School also received a donation from Staples in Mansfield. Again, we're appreciative of everything the district receives. So that's some of our awards and recognition. And Ms. Ide, if you look at the agenda, I actually took care of number 1, 4, 5, and 6 in that little presentation. So we're moving right along. And I'll stop.
Very, very good job of juggling all those things.
That's
Thank
right.
you. And that's a very impressive list of accomplishments and by the students and staff, and also by the community at large. So kudos to everybody.
All right, now if you want me just to continue on, I'll share my screen again for the next presentation, which should bring the board and everyone on the meeting up to date on what's happening in the world of COVID-19. Oh, hang on one second. Technical difficulties. There we go. I got a little nervous there for a minute. All right, can everybody see my screen? Bob of heads, that's good. All right. Okay. First of all, I wanted to just bring the board up to speed and bring everyone who's listening up to speed on all the communication that's going on between myself and my district teams and all of the health and state officials who are really trying to make this whole COVID-19, I'm going to say nightmare because it is, try to make sense of it and trying to help us through the whole process. But this is just a list of some of the meetings that I regularly take part in, starting with a meeting that I have daily, 3:15 every day. The COVID team internally meets to discuss any new cases and go through the number of people who are quarantined and the communication that has to come out as a result of that. I then have at least a weekly check-in with Patrice Sulik. Many times I speak to her 4 and 5 and 6 times a week, but at least on a weekly basis, she's on my calendar. We have a weekly emergency town response meeting that I'm a part of. The local superintendents meet weekly. Most of our discussions have to do with COVID, although obviously there's other topics that are addressed. We attend a weekly meeting with the State Department of Ed officials and the state public health officials, including the 2 highest epidemiologists. That happens every Tuesday morning. The governor's calls they've happened weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, depending on what's happening in the state. So that's something else that we're regularly tuned into. This week and the end of last week, we had several additional meetings because Windham is a red alert status. And then I have my weekly leadership team. And although I wish it wasn't this way, much of our conversations with the building leaders and district leaders have to do with COVID-19. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed that this is sort of all encompassing. It pretty much takes up everything we're doing in the district right now. And we're working really hard to make it make sense for everyone. But it's not easy anywhere. So I just want everyone to know that I'm acknowledging it is definitely not easy. In terms of our current district status, as everyone on the call should know, we're in the second week of our 2 fully virtual weeks. It should end on Friday. We've been trying to use this time to educate and support our families and support our students and staff. So some of the things that we have in place right now, the school-based health center has remained open at the middle school. We did the community outreach at Rec Park, connected to the coat drive there, or the coat distribution. We continue to update our website and put out communications related to reminding people of all the health and safety protocols. We are having our staff members take part in the emotional intelligence. It's a 10-hour course, helping them to learn some strategies to keep themselves grounded in a crazy time, and also to learn some strategies they can push back for their students. We are going to be offering some optional self-care activities starting on Wednesday, November 18th for our staff, to give them an opportunity to do some things that will help them relax and reduce their anxiety level. We're in the process of trying to establish a satellite COVID testing site here in the district. It does take us, we have to do a few things, jump through a few hoops to make it happen, but if we're able to do that, then our staff members and community members could essentially have access to ongoing testing options should they become symptomatic or be concerned that they were exposed. We've made some adjustments to our food services pickup. The team in the food services department has started pickups as early as 7:30 to try to help out families that were struggling to get their meals before school starts virtually. And we're in the process of rolling out a daily screener that we'll embed into our daily routine. So lots going on, even though we're in the virtual world. And that daily screener, we have it in both English and Spanish. So I'm just showing you an example. We're basically trying to make sure that staff members and students know that they should not come to school or work if they're experiencing any symptoms. We can't say that enough, because if you come to work or school with symptoms and you end up being positive, then we have to go through the whole process of contact tracing, and it's very disruptive to the community. So if you know you're not feeling well, we're really encouraging everyone to please, please, please stay home. So you'll be seeing some communication rolled out around these daily screeners and how we plan to use them in all of the buildings, across the district. And I hope everyone knows they can jump in if they have a question. It's hard for me to see you and share my screen at the same time, but. Oh, Lynn, I think you're talking to me, but you're on mute.
Sorry, if I see people raising their hands, I'll make sure to call on them, but also you put it in the chat if you have a question. There is a question, not from a board member, but I will allow it, about whether or not moving the meal pickup times to 7:30 made any difference in the number of take-ups?
That's a great question. It actually did, and it happened the very first day that it was moved to 7:30. Eric Vole said he saw an increase in the number of meals picked up. And he and I also talked about if we're ever in the situation again and it's a long-range shutdown, which I hope doesn't happen, but if it does, that there was also some feedback about potentially having it a later pickup in the evening times for those people that work really, really early and would even not be able to get there for 7:30. So we did notice a difference, which is good for everyone. More kids eating, right? Obviously a good thing. All right, what we now know, or what we know now, however you want to say it. First of all, the one thing we do know, and it's obviously not a guarantee. I'm not suggesting that we have all the answers, but one of the things that we're really proud of is that our school staff has done an amazing job of making sure the mitigation strategies are all in place. And because that they are doing that, and it seems like this is not only in Windham. Of course, I'm proud of our Windham folks, but it sounds like it's across the state. The virus is not spreading in our buildings. It's coming into our buildings, it's disruptive to our process. It makes people very anxious and worried, and all that is completely, it's normal, right? We're humans. No one wants to get the virus. No one wants to bring it home to their loved ones. But it's not spreading in our buildings, at least not so far, and we're really proud about that. We are being strongly encouraged to make sure our schools are staying open for in-person learning. That's the message across the state. And the guidance from the State Department of Ed and the Department of Public Health has been revised to help us get there. One of the things that I've sent out to the board members and also to the staff is the revisions of Addendum 4, and we'll talk a little bit about that in this presentation. But it's important to know they've sort of changed the parameters about how and when they think it's appropriate for you to go to virtual. And actually, if Addendum 4 had come out a week earlier, we might not be in virtual right now because we didn't actually meet the threshold. What we know is that the hybrid model definitely worked to start off the school year and allow our schools to make sure that all the students and staff are able to follow the safety protocols. We know from feedback that the hybrid model really creates a real struggle for many of our families, most especially for those families that have younger children. Those children need to be supervised for 3 of the 5 days a week, and that's very difficult for you to balance your work life and trying to watch your kids. Or like in my case, my kids are home on hybrid while I'm at work, and that's not working either, so I feel their pain completely. One of the things we've noticed is while we made the decision to do the AB rotation because it placed our students in front of a human teacher with fewer days in between, one of the things that we've realized is that with the number of contact tracing situations we've gone through, that an AA-BB day would have been much easier in terms of contact tracing. So we're definitely aware of that. It's difficult to say, okay, the student was in school on Monday and Thursday. Oh no, this student was in school on Tuesday and Friday. It gets to be a little crazy when you're trying to count back days to keep track of who might be exposed. As I mentioned already, the COVID response team has been doing an amazing job on contact tracing, keeping track of our daily data and providing an ongoing health and safety professional development for our staff. The communication and collaboration between the state and the district has definitely improved. And our plan to address the ventilation issues with the support of the BT Lindsay technicians is definitely working. We'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the things, as I mentioned, that they've made some adjustments on is there's a new way of looking at the data. Originally, the data was being rolled out on a weekly basis, and now they've moved it to a 2-week basis. And they've also left districts, they're strongly encouraging, as I have already mentioned, in-person learning. So they've left some parameters and some primary indicators and secondary indicators that they want us to be looking at. And on the right-hand side of your screen is a picture of the document that they're asking us to look at when we're making these decisions. And it can be found, the website's on that slide. And I'm actually going to push this out to everyone so everyone will have access to it. But they want us to be aware of the number of new cases per 100,000 people in the population. And then obviously they're tracking the positivity rate, the number of hospitalizations, and then anyone who's showing COVID-like or flu-like symptoms in a community. So all these things are sort of coming together to help us make decisions about the level of in-person learning that you're offering in your district. And again, the goal is for in-person learning. And part of that is because they know from looking at the state data that the virus is not being spread in schools. So in their minds, from a public health standpoint, our students are the safest they can be in our schools. I know it doesn't necessarily make the adults in the schools feel comfortable, but they're making a valid jump from looking at the data to say our kids really are safe in our buildings. The virus is not spreading there because we're doing a great job with the mitigation strategies. This is just a blurb from the revised Addendum 4. And one of the things that's really important to notice is what I put in italics and bold type on the screen. And that is, if a district doesn't meet the threshold established by DPH, you actually have to go to a hearing at the state level. You have to sit in front of a panel and get them to give you basically an exception to your decision. So I would imagine that there's not a lot of superintendents who are going to be pushing to have the state review your decision. So I'm thinking that the revision to Addendum 4 is going to put us in a position where we really do have to meet the threshold to move to virtual learning. There's some situations where you might not have to reach the threshold, but you are going to still have to go through this exception review. So I just wanted the board to know that again, if the Addendum 4 had been out a week earlier, I might not have made the decision that I did that put us in the 2-week shutdown right now, because a review at the state's a big deal. This is another example of some of the data that's being, that you can access. I put the website on the screen so you can go to it yourself if you're not already accessing it. You can see Windham there in red. We are in red because we have 15 or more cases per 100,000 people. If you can't read that little box, it's written off on the left-hand side of your screen. Basically says for the 2-week look back, week 1, there were 50 cases. Week 2, there were 28 cases. Our rate per 100,000 people is 22.6. And it's letting you know that for the 2-week period that data exists and when it was last updated. So every week this has changed. You can go on the website, it's completely interactive. You can move your mouse over any one of the communities and see where they are. The epidemiologists have let us know in our call today that they anticipate more orange and more red towns coming soon. So that was something that they share. They are aware that there are some spikes happening across the state, and they won't be surprised if they see more orange or red. So that's important because it's going to play a role in what we decide to do here as a district. So I just wanted to let you all know that. In addition to the interactive map, there's also a grid that you can look at. Again, it talks about the leading factors that you use to make your decisions, as well as the secondary factors, just another way to present the data. You can see Windham, the Windham County there is, in the moderate range. And again, it has the positivity rate, the hospitalizations, and the COVID-like or flu-like illness indicated in your community. So all this data, again, can be found for anyone to look at. It's all published on the websites that I've linked back to the presentation. So if anyone's interested, I encourage you to go and do your own research. Sometimes that makes people feel better about the information they're receiving. So please, by all means, read up. Since tonight we're talking about potentially a plan to change learning models if the data says that it's safe to do that, I wanted to show you that on EdSite. Again, I've given you the link. They publish on a weekly or bi-weekly basis information about where the state is in terms of the 3 learning models. So you'll see very few districts are in fully remote. More districts are fully in person than in hybrid. And just at the bottom of the screen there is just a data point for Windham. Before we went into our full virtual shutdown, for the 2 weeks, we were up to 38.7% of our students had opted for learning at home, full virtual on their own. So that's almost 40% of our families had opted for fully virtual before we ended up as a district fully virtual. This is the data as of 2:45 today. We have, of our 3,253 students, 14 are in quarantine, 4 are in isolation. Of our 709 employees, 4 are in quarantine and 1 is in isolation. So I know I've been updating the board on this pretty regularly, but I think it's important. One of the things I foresee if there is a spike, and if it does end up impacting our staff members, I do foresee issues with covering classrooms. And I've had conversations with my principals about this. At some point, you won't have enough staff members to fill spaces and to be substitutes. But right now, 5 is a very low number. So I'm feeling comfortable about that right now. I mean, I don't want anyone to be quarantined or isolated, but 5 is a small number out of 709. All right, this is an attendance check back. What we did was we asked April, she's a rock star, we asked her to pull the data and look at the last 5 days of when we were in the hybrid model for each school and the first week of full virtual attendance to figure out how we were doing. And then we compared the average attendance for each school. So you'll see, like, for example, the early childhood, WECC, their last hybrid week, the average attendance for the week was 78.92%. And then we move over and the average attendance during the first virtual week was actually slightly less, 77.88%, which equates to about 2 less students logged on. That's the difference in the 2 percentages. So we went through and looked at every school to determine, is there a difference if we move to fully virtual for the students, right? That's why we're all in business, to educate the students. The one that's most alarming, because we're a little up and down, the negatives mean we've gone backwards. The other ones are positive numbers, but the one that was most concerning to me was the high school, in that it looks like we lost about 34 kids when we moved to fully virtual. So that does trouble me a little bit. And we're going to be looking deeper into this, because one of the high school teachers today let me know that they thought it could be related to the kids not logging in after their lunch break. So we're going to be digging into that data to figure out if that is, if that's what's driving the dip. And then we're going to work to fix that, because we want our kids to be logged into everything they're required to attend. But I want everyone in the district to know that we are looking at data to help us make really tough decisions, and attendance data is a really important data point to be looking at. I'm going to keep going. I can't see the chat box, but I'll just take your word for it, Lynn, that you're monitoring it.
Okay, well, in the chat box, we have Tracy Lambert pointed out that staff isolation quarantine numbers are down since the school shut down. Is there any response that you have on that? Is that what you believe is happening?
Well, it's possible that that's one of the factors. It's also possible that the numbers of quarantine and isolations, they ended. Depending on whether you're in quarantine or isolation, every 14 or 10 days, people fall off our list. So it could be that the numbers were elevated and we reached that threshold and they came off the list. I would need more time to know if it was related to the close down.
Thank you. And then just an observation from Kristen DeGray, that the green model shows hybrid numbers after we've been doing it since September, whereas the yellow numbers of fully virtual really shows us just after the first week, and that they're like sort of 2 different routines, right? One is people are more settled into, and the other is newer.
Well, that is a true observation. That's an accurate observation. Although I would think that if you connected with the students and built the routines, whether they were in person or not, that if you switched to fully virtual, they would still be showing up. I'd like to think that, but I know what she's saying. It's not apples to apples. I get it.
Right. And then there was an observation by Tisha Salgado that some of the no logins may have been because of technical difficulties, which I think is something we've recognized all along. Sometimes that's an issue.
True, but remember that green data during the hybrid model, 40% of those kids just about are fully virtual. So they're mixed into that data as well. So the same login issues could potentially be an issue on the green side as well. But you're right. They're all questions that we'd need to flush out.
Good point.
Which is the case with data always, right? Data doesn't always answer your questions. It helps tell a story. You have to figure out the path it's taking you. All right. This is an update on the ventilation repairs that the Collier's report suggested we had to do for each of our buildings. As you'll see, 2 of our buildings have been completed. Yay, Natchog and Barrows. Natchog, the reason why it says monitor the repairs is because that is our oldest building. And although the maintenance crew and by the way, Dawn's on this call because Dawn will be able to answer any technical questions. That's not me. She knows the HVAC stuff, not me. But Dawn's maintenance team and the BT Lindsay technicians have been working hard, and the repairs that they've done at Natchog, they're monitoring those repairs because, as you know, you can fix something and not have it stay fixed. So they're hoping it stays fixed and they can move just to a regular maintenance process. The same is true at Barrows. Windham Center is about 90% done. There's some computer work around the air handlers, programming those air handlers. Sweeney's about 90% done. There's 2 gym air handlers and filters that have to be completed. North Windham is about 80% there. I guess they're searching for power for 2 of the exhaust fans, and once they figure out the power piece, they need to replace those fans and do some computer work again. The middle school and the high school have had the biggest jump in their the amount of work that's been completed. They're coming down the home stretch at about 80%. And I'll let Dawn jump in if she has anything else she wants to share, or I can't see people, so it's hard for me.
Dawn is here. Dawn, is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, that's a good summary. That was from this morning, progress. So it's pretty much up to date, except what we had completed today. But
I like the sounds
we're on a good track.
I like the sounds that more might have been done today. That's a good thing.
I would say that was money well spent to bring in the consultant to help move this along, correct?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And you can celebrate your team, Dawn, because they've been amazing. The amount of work that's been accomplished in the last couple of weeks is unbelievable.
Good leadership.
Absolutely.
And good work. We still have a ways to go. I don't think any of us are going to be happy till we're up to the 100% mark in all the schools, and knowing that things will break and have to be dealt with, but
right. And
we're moving in the right direction rapidly, which is good.
And Dawn knows that I sent her an email at the end of the day because in my meeting with the teachers union, they had some specific questions that I couldn't answer about where we were in the progress and what that meant in their classrooms. So we'll get them an answer to those questions for tomorrow. Because we have questions. If you fix the exhaust fans on the roof, does that mean your classroom no longer needs to have a fan being the exhaust in the classroom? So those kinds of questions that will get answered for them, because obviously they want to know that their rooms are ventilated properly. So we're working on it. Okay, so obviously the hearing that the state continues to spike in cases is not a great time to be talking about changing learning models. But what I want to do is present at least a plan to phase in, or phase out, I should say, the hybrid model. I know I'm fully aware that obviously if the cases continue to rise, we're not going to be changing learning models, right? That just wouldn't be safe to do. Like it says at the top, public health data and/or family choice data must suggest changes can be done safely. And what I mean by family choice data is if enough families decide that they don't want to send their children to school in person, then it's easy for us to offer in-person learning to those that do want to send their children. So that's what I mean. But obviously, if we're continuing to see red towns all over the state of Connecticut, my plan, or the dates of my plan, won't be appropriate. But I want you all to know the plan, and then we can figure out when is the appropriate time to make those decisions. So the overall goal is to eliminate the hybrid model, and we're going to do that by phasing in grade levels or schools. Parents will have the ability to choose either a fully in-person option for their kids or a fully virtual option. There will be no hybrid, right? That'll be gone. At least between now and the end of the end of 2020, we will have full in-person learning will occur on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And that will leave us virtual flex day on Wednesday. And again, that may stay in place longer than December 23rd, but at least until the end of 2020, we know it'll be in place. We are looking at continuing with the families to, if they opt to keep their students home, that they can expect about a week's worth of time that they'll need to give notice to the school. I've gotten some feedback on that it may need to be a longer amount of time, but we can talk about that if this change in learning models actually happens. And I need folks to know, those employees who are taking advantage of our satellite school, that is only going to be able to be offered until Friday, November 20th. We are utilizing staff members who have other jobs to do to cover that satellite school, which means we'll have some employees who will be potentially without childcare after Friday the 20th. So that's another piece of this that we have to be cognizant of, because we've offered for more than 30 kids the opportunity to be in a satellite school when they're not in-person school. So that could impact our ability to staff departments or schools. So more to come on that, but that's one of the many reasons why I want to have a plan to move learning models, in addition to the state's emphasis on getting kids back in the building. And there's just general feedback that the hybrid model, we know was a temporary fix. It was not designed to be, the way schools would function for a long period of time. So on this calendar, and again, these dates could change based on the public health data, and we get an update tomorrow in our Thursday meeting. This has us coming back coming back hybrid on Monday, November 2nd, and it leaves us in the hybrid model for at least 2 weeks. So the week of November 2nd, we continue in the hybrid model as is, pre-K to 12, and the week of November 9th, we continue in the hybrid model. And then we would make the jump to welcome back our kindergarten through 5th grade students. And I actually got some feedback from the principals about whether or not they wanted to see those grade levels come back in waves. And they thought it was less disruptive to invite all of the K-5 students back at one time. And at that point, those families would choose either fully in person or fully virtual. Then the following week, it's a shortened week, but we would welcome back our 6th through 8th grade students, as well as the pre-K students, or WECC, that exists at Windham Middle School. And then the following week, we would welcome back our high school students. And again, all of these are just a proposed wave in or phase in of the grade levels until we could offer either a fully in-person or fully virtual option. Again, they're dependent upon public health data or family choice data, or a combination of the two. And we're at least going to be gathering data about it. We've asked the schools to consider, because we've done so many district-wide surveys and we know how difficult it is to manage individual family responses in a district-wide survey. We've asked the schools to take over and ask, the question's actually up on the next screen, to ask their families and have each classroom keep track of whether or not a family would opt fully in person or fully virtual. And we've given them some parameters about when we'd need the data to be returned by. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it, all this is dependent on public health data and our ability to do this safely.
So I think we should open it up for some questions and discussion. The board is invited to participate in the discussion. I'll field questions from the chat. And there was a question about whether or not teachers will be required to teach both virtual and in person. Or will you have one teacher per grade per school do the virtual?
So one of the things you'll see in one of my upcoming slides, we are in about mid-November, we are considering coming up with some solutions that would potentially allow for the sharing of virtual or in-person responsibilities with some parameters. We'll be pushing that out to the district shortly. We're expecting everyone come to work and works from campus. So that's one thing we have to say. We're not setting up virtual teachers who are working from home. They would be in the school working. And we obviously want to make sure that the arrangement is equitable between the staff members, that it's been approved by their principal and the assistant superintendent, that it's not disruptive to the students involved. So there's a series of parameters that we will set up, but we are entertaining the idea that we could figure out through teaching partnerships how to manage this a little easier for the teachers. Oh,
So
and another consider is that the instruction being delivered, whether it's virtual or in person, is being delivered by a certified staff member, certified to teach those students and certified to teach that content area.
Thank you. I know there are some other questions, but I want to open it up to board members because this is the board's opportunity to engage with Dr. Youngberg on this first and foremost. And Mary has raised her hand that she has some questions. So Mary? I'm going to hand it over to you, and then we'll get back to the questions in the chat box after the board gets a chance to weigh in. Thank you. Mary?
Yes. Yeah, I just first want to say I am a little concerned because the state is kind of seeing some peaks in the positivity rates, and I'm concerned because the peaks are increasing, and the governor and public health officials are saying, let's go ahead with greater, phasing, opening things up and going fully in person in schools. I think those things seem to be counter-indicated. And also just looking kind of internationally, so some nations which have been open are now closing and going into lockdown. So I just want to, say that I'm cautious because of how much we don't know about the virus and how much we don't know about the spread during flu season and in the winter. I'm also a little skeptical, I must admit, about some of the EdSite data because some so-called districts in the state of Connecticut are basically 1K through 8 school. And I know someone whose children are in one of those districts, which is just one school, and there are already almost 40% of parents who have either opted out of completely and are homeschooling, or they're doing fully virtual. So I think it's kind of, massaging the numbers to say that that district is fully in person when, again, 40% are kind of taking themselves out of the equation, and that we need to be very serious about doing this and not, massage the data or be blind to what the implications are. So I really appreciate all the work that has gone into this by the superintendent and the central office. But I do want to say, I think we're not being mindful of the science if we're overconfident, and if we're saying, oh, it's okay if 40% of families are too afraid to set foot in the school, because that is, to me, that is concerning, and people may be doing it, leaving their jobs because of fear and having a lot of other implications happen. And maybe we as a society need to buckle down and get through this, help in a healthful way. So that's my sort of long comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Do you want to respond to that at all?
So, I don't disagree. I mean, it is true that the public health data is driving the decisions we make, and this is a plan that is only going to move forward if it's safe to do it. But I know that we can't manage in the hybrid model forever. So at some point, we're going to have to figure out a way to get us to a place where the families that are comfortable sending their kids are able to do that, and the families that aren't comfortable will access learning fully virtual. I know remember I put this presentation together, over a week ago, to get it to you for last Friday, or to get you to be prepared for this on Friday. And it's true that literally the data changes almost every day. So Mary's not wrong that even in our 3 o'clock meeting today, the message was that they're expecting to see more red and orange states.
Is there anybody else on the board who would like to have Katina, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry that if my dog starts barking, I'll mute myself. My question, thank you for all the information you're providing, but I'm also concerned about those students who have special needs, and how is, you just presented the care team and what a great job they're doing and going to homes. How is that gonna work when they also have to be, live in school, providing services to the kids who are attending in person? So do you have a plan for that?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Katina.
Oh, so for special needs, did I understand correctly that the speech pathologists were attending homes or going to homes to provide services, or did I misunderstand that?
So
I think what Katina is asking is how, for those students with those special needs, is the staff able to go to the homes and work with them as well as work with with other students that are actually physically in the school during the course of
Yeah,
the day?
thank you, thank
So I'm
you.
going to let either Miguel or Suzanne answer that question from the Pupil Services Department. Are you talking about these 2 weeks though, or in general?
In general.
Okay.
She was asking about.
If I can
Yeah,
just
in
chime
general,
in.
sorry, my dog started barking.
Go ahead, Miguel.
So I just wanted to say thank you for the question, Katina. The program you're referring to, the CARE program, I'm gonna let Suzanne talk more about that, but that's a very small percentage of students who are getting those services. And that's due to students who cannot come to school at all because of medical concerns. During the virtual time that we just spent or are currently in, nobody is going to the home, okay, right at this point. So that's why you saw them virtually. For other staff who are working with students in a hybrid or full in person, we are doing services for those students as we would for all other students. So it's going to be in person when they're in school and virtually when they are at home. The staff that we're using for the CARE program, again, is very specific staff for a very small number of students. I hope that answered. I don't know if Suzanne wants to add to the CARE program.
No, I think that was a great answer. And those staff members had those students, whether they're in person or in their homes, so they were already a slotted slot, you know, on their caseload. And they're choosing to do it toward the end of their days so that way they can go home on the way. So.
Thanks.
There's no question about it that all the teachers and the staff are being superhuman to actually deal with the students who are learning virtually and the students that are learning in person. And we owe them all a debt of gratitude for their creativity and their willingness to make this work. I know firsthand, I have 2 daughters who are in classrooms with students 5 days a week, and also trying to balance the ones that are home virtually. And it's not easy. So I want to recognize that.
Agreed.
We have been dealt a situation that is beyond anybody's imagination here. And I think everybody's trying to do their best. And I think one of the points that I hear in Dr. Youngberg's presentation is that regardless of about what any of us may think, if the public health data allows us to go to bring children back full time whose parents and families desire that and need that, as well as deal with the students whose parents and families decide they want to keep them learning virtually. It's a lot that we need to figure out how to deal with. It's not going to go away because it makes some people feel better if we could make it go away. I mean, the reality in an economically strapped community especially is that there are people who have zero choice about what to do with their children. And that is like, can you imagine? I can't imagine if having to deal with those decisions. My kids are all grown, but if my kids were all home, I don't know how I would deal with it. Is there anybody on the board who would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I don't have a question, just a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Elda.
I do want to say thank you to Tracy and her fabulous team for making this work. This has to be the most difficult time in the school system to have to juggle this. And as a parent, I'm glad that I don't have to make that choice, whether I stay home from work or, send my kid somewhere, or like Lynn said, some people don't have daycare. This is just a crappy situation all around. And of course, the numbers are going up, and you guys are doing an amazing job keeping up with this. I just think a couple of things that comes to my mind in listening to the presentation and to folks share. It's got to be difficult for the small ones to sit in front of a screen. It's difficult for me to sit in front of this screen and just sit here, you know, so it's got to be extremely difficult for the small ones to sit and listen to the class and the teacher. And it's got to be hard for the teacher. I commend you guys immensely, because it's got to be hard to try to figure out, you know, who's in the class, who's supposed to be there, why aren't they there, you know. And it's just a comment, like I said, that I have to say, and I just want to commend you guys on an amazing job under these extreme circumstances that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thanks, Hilda.
Anybody else on the board? There's one more question in the chat then, which is how would this, what you're proposing, moving forward, you know, if we're allowed to, how would it work for specials classes?
So it shouldn't change the specials teacher schedules. There would just be more children in the classrooms that they're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm missing more to that question, I think
That's all the question said.
Okay. I think it was referring to how would virtual teachers work for specials, I think, because the previous question.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Yeah, for virtual and in person, the question was. I meant for virtual and in person.
So again, it would if it was going to be for a combination of the two, and they were trying to come up with a situation that could equitably share those responsibilities, it'd have to meet the parameters that we establish as a district. So we'd have to talk more about it. I don't think we can answer the question now because we haven't actually formally put out the parameters yet.
Okay, I have a question. If you decide, I mean, if we're moving toward the students who choose to be in person 4 days a week and the students who choose to be virtual rather than coming at all, we're moving away from the hybrid. What happens if we get an imbalanced number of families that decide to come back in person and in any particular classroom or grade level, we're unable to do the social distancing because of X amount of students in Miss McCusick's class decide to come back in person?
So then my next couple slides sort of talk about that. It is true that depending on the number of kids in a class that you might not be able to meet the 6-foot social distancing piece. So why don't you I'll keep going with my slides because I think I'm going to address it in just going through the next couple slides.
Okay, go ahead.
But we would have to make, there is potentially or a possibility that you'd be looking at trying to figure out how to balance classes for safety purposes, because you're right. One class could have 6 kids come back and the class next door could have 15 kids come back in the same grade level, right? So we'd have to talk about that. Hang on. Uh-oh, there we go. All right, so one of the things that the Department of Public Health keeps telling us that the reasons why the schools are being successful and the virus is not being transmitted in our buildings is because they are using a myriad of mitigation strategies, and it's not any one strategy, although they keep saying that the wearing of masks is incredibly important. But DPH keeps telling us it's a combination of all strategies. So that gets at the next piece. If you're not able to meet the 6-foot social distancing, that, remember, in the original state guidelines was wherever feasible. The words wherever feasible appeared in that document about 40 different times. And the American Academy of Pediatrics actually suggests it's more like 3 feet that makes sense for the little ones. But that's where you'd go back and you'd say, okay, so if I can't make the 6-foot social distancing piece, then I'm going to make sure all the other mitigation strategies are in place. On my next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens if you can't make the 6-foot social distancing piece, because it is going to result in potentially more quarantines and more isolations. We talked a little bit about this, that all staff members would continue to come onto campus, and about the piece about offering some equitable solutions for sharing of the virtual and in-person responsibilities. So more to come on that. The last bullet on this slide is important because K-8 K to 5 is able to do an amazing job of cohorting. Even grades 6 through 8 can cohort to some extent, but grades 9 through 12 can't cohort in their classrooms. The schedules don't allow the cohorting to happen. It's happening in their lunch waves and things like that, but they can't cohort their classrooms because of teacher certifications and student schedules. So they may have to be looked at differently than the K-8 schools. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge that that is very much a real piece and may have the model for the high school looking different than the rest of the district, even though they're on our calendar as the fourth week moving in. So this is the piece about the 6-foot social distancing. If you can't separate people by 6 feet, if you have a positive case in a classroom, you could potentially end up sending home an entire classroom for a quarantine, which is obviously not something we want to do. But it's something that I have to make sure the staff and the families are aware of when we're communicating this. If we do end up bringing back more kids in person, and again, the public health data has to tell us it's safe to do that. And then just to mention that we're going to be adding in the daily health screener into our routines, and that there will also be an increased number of students on the bus. Although I think our bus numbers are going to be in good shape because, again, many families have opted not to send their kids on the school bus this year. So we have very few kids on a school bus. So I don't know, Lynn, did that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot to be worked out still. So, it's a constant, I mean, one question leads to another question, and
absolutely.
I'm sure the administrative, you and your administrators will be working with the teachers, the food service workers, everybody on staff to figure this out.
Absolutely. And what we've learned in doing this for a couple months now is even when we troubleshoot and think we know what's going to happen next, we don't actually know it till it plays out. So trying to be flexible in that, trying to guess what might be an issue, but stuff pops up that we have to deal with that we didn't anticipate dealing with. So, All right. So that's sort of the big picture thoughts about changing the learning models. And then the next thing in the presentation is about sports. So I don't know if there's any more questions about.
There's one more question. There's one more question in the in the chat about how it would be equitable for dual language teachers pairing up to share virtual versus in-person teaching.
I don't know if I can answer that yet. I mean, Neil and I have had multiple conversations about some of the models that are being used across the state, but that's a specialized program. So we'd have to dig into that one and try to figure it out. I don't know, Neil, if you have anything to share.
It's something we're aware of. There are some obstacles for some of our programs that have a limited number of classrooms, and we're aware of it.
We're aware of it. We don't know if we can fix it, but we know it could potentially throw up a barrier.
Correct.
Okay. Is there anybody on the board who has any more questions or comments on this?
So what I had planned to do is after my meeting tomorrow where we get the next week's data is inform the board and the staff. Right now, our data suggests the 22.6 cases per 100,000 suggests that we should safely be able to come back on Monday, November 2nd in the hybrid model. That's what the data says, 22.6 falls in the hybrid range. So that's our plan right now, but if they tell me something alarming tomorrow in my 3 or 4 o'clock, I can't remember what time, whatever time that meeting is, then obviously I'll report that out. But right now, the plan is for everyone to return to work and the students to return to the hybrid model on Monday, November 2nd. All right.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk about sports.
Right.
So sports.
So this is
before you get started, I just want to start out by saying I know this is an issue that has weighed heavily on a number of board members' shoulders, given how painful it was to deal with sports, all sports, and in particular, we're very anxious to not be in the position that we were in with all fall sports. Our back was up against the wall, and we were making decisions like in a not very good way. So,
the next 2 slides are actually the letter that came from the executive director of the CIAC today, which is what I sent to the board. I forward you the email. But the takeaway in the letter is that he goes through all the things that have been done to date about winter sports and about how the next meeting is scheduled for November 10th, but they're already considering postponing that meeting, pushing it back a week because of the trends in the state. So we could end up in a similar position as the fall sports with the winter sports, because that's just what seems to be happening.
Could you please mute? Thank you. Go ahead.
So I just wanted the board to know that that's where we are, that they're saying because of the trends around the state, they might push back the decision on winter sports to the week of November 16th. And then, like I've already shared with you, Lynn, it probably will mean, if this does happen along their timeline, some kind of a special meeting to make the decision about whether or not winter sports will occur. They do go on to celebrate all the work that the coaches and the athletic directors have done to make fall sports, to have provided fall sports for the student athletes. So want to recognize them as well. So I know we're not voting on anything right now, and there's really nothing to vote on because the CIAC hasn't produced anything yet, or hasn't gotten to the point where they can give us the plan. But I already know, you're right, there's already an issue because there was an issue with the fall sport. So it's going to sort of be ongoing.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Tracy Lambert?
Are we intending on sports resuming on Monday when in-person classes resume?
That is the plan, yes. And actually, you'll see them. I had sent an email to the board, but in the next slide, there are two things going on related to the fall sports, and one of them is actually happening over the weekend. And I feel confident that the safety protocols in place will allow both of these things to happen safely. And one involves celebrating our seniors, which I think if you've played a sport for all these years, you need to have something that says, your time and energy was well spent. So I would like to see the seniors celebrated on our soccer and volleyball teams, along with 2 family members for each student athlete. And the football celebration is slated for the spring. And I would like the opportunity for the juniors and seniors, there's only 6 of them total, to be a part of this skills combine at New London High School. Again, safety protocols in place. It's six of our students, and it involves the opportunity potentially for them to have college scholarships. So that's like life altering, and I feel like they need to have that opportunity. So like I told the board in my email, I would like, I'm comfortable giving them permission to do this, but I wanted you all to know that was the decision I was making. And since right now, as it stands, we will be out of our fully virtual environment on Friday. They should be okay to participate on Saturday, October 31st. So I don't know if the board has any questions or thoughts about that.
Thank you.
Good question, Tracy. Thanks for asking for the clarification. Anybody else on the board want to speak up on this or ask a question? Mark, is that you? Did you have a question or want to say something, Mark?
No, that was a false flag. I'm okay, I understand.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so thank you. That's a lot to absorb. As I was saying to Dr. Youngberg on the phone, I think maybe a week or 2 ago, I feel like less and less we're operating a school district and more we're just operating a COVID management system. So it's crazy. Next thing on the agenda is a proposed calendar for the 2021-2022 budget setting, and there's also proposed meeting dates that are in our packet. So is there any question about those issues or that people want to raise now? We're not taking action on them tonight. I want to say on the budget calendar, this is the proposed calendar. It has the wrong year then. This is for the 2020-2021 budget. I'm assuming you mean 2021-2022.
Uh-oh.
But I do want board members to look at this because, as we all know, when we get into budget setting season, there are a lot more meetings and deadlines that we need to meet. And I want you to note these dates if this is what we're going to approve on your calendars. Are there any big problems that anybody sees?
No, but are you saying we're not voting on this tonight? But
I don't see it under action items.
exactly. So should we put them in our calendars or should we wait until?
We'll take action at our next meeting, but
Okay.
like, don't make a plan if you possibly can for these dates. And the proposed meeting date calendar was put together with input from the board members and the committee chairs too, for the committee meetings in 2021. So we'll take action on this at our next meeting, okay? Any questions, comments? Okay, so next thing is, there are a bunch of first readings on number 10 through number 17. And Janet Testa is a saint because she actually went through all of these documents, which were in our 149-page board packet. And she took each of these policies and made a short description, which fit onto about a page and a half. So thank you, Janet. That was very kind of you. And does anybody in the board have any questions about any of these today? I'm just checking the chat to make sure. Oh, well, we'll get to that later. No, there's nothing in the chat about from a board member. So, so we're going to move on then from all these readings to get some updates from the principals that we were unable to get to, hearing about what's going on at their schools at our board retreat. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all. And I guess we'll just go in the order that is on our agenda. And the first update is going to be coming from Sweeney School. Turn it over to you, Angela Kiss.
Okay, thank you. And Janet is going to put up our PowerPoint. The St. Janet, there she is.
Yeah, she's behind the tropical backdrop.
Yes.
I can hear her out there.
Yeah. So I will say, Ms. Ide, that when I took a look at the agenda, I thought we might be getting pushed off again to yet another date. when I.
Well, luckily, they're not all action items.
Yes, right.
So go right ahead. Oh, okay.
Okay, as soon as Janet gets it up. Okay.
Okay.
So this is following the exact same model that the other schools followed. And just to tell you about the reopening, which actually was between, up until October 9th when you had your retreat. Like the other schools, Sweeney had a reopening committee. That's the second slide, Janet. And here's my beautiful reopening committee. We had the health and safety committee, our head custodian and our school nurse. And then the people on the bottom were either the social and emotional committee or the academic committee. And all of those people are there and have been working very hard with the entire school staff. And then the third slide shows our 4 teachers from the UConn Teacher Leadership Fellow Committee, and Anne Marie Miller and Andy Gendron completed the first cohort of 3 years, and Tina Gaetani and Emily Mallon are in the second cohort that just started last year. So those are the people that helped me put this together. And Cami Nyland-Poirier, our instructional coach, really did a lot of the logistics of getting everything in the right order. So thank you, Cami. So our current enrollment at Sweeney is 248 students right now. And from the state demographic list, students are listed in the following percents. 88% are classified as high needs students, 44% English language learners, 23% special education, and 81% free and reduced lunch. That's who we are, and we are all Sweeney Stars. Our reopening number showed at that time we had about 88 to 90% attendance. It has gone down since then. In fact, the following week after that, it went down from the 88 to 90% down to 86%. And then if you look at the 2 weeks that Tracy shared, it was down again to 82% and then went up to 84%. So that's where we are with attendance. The second number is something that Tracy asked us to try to get a handle on and to survey the teachers on for an average percent of kids that are engaged on a daily basis. And so there is, on this particular week, about a 10% difference between kids who were attending and kids whose teachers were listing them as being engaged in the learning. And at Sweeney, we do have a higher percentage than the district of virtual versus in-person students. So we have 46% in person and 54% virtual. Next slide. So this is just showing some of the things that have been happening at Sweeney. You'll see, things happening outdoors. See Mrs. McCusick there teaching a science lesson. And the little girl up in the upper left, a little first grader, that is her home classroom. And we just wanted to include that because her mom really has her set up with a school at home for her virtual days. Next slide. Some of the initiatives that we're doing this year to support the district and the state focus on social and emotional learning is implementation of responsive classroom. We have at least one teacher from each grade level that's had the training and are kind of acting as leaders at their grade level. We also are still doing the Husky Reach program, which is, the student athletes come to Sweeney a few times a year and read with the students, and they also support other literacy activities at the school. We have extended, as the whole district has, ARC reading program to grade 5, and we're doing Spanish literacy in grade 4 for the kids that were in the Dos Rios program last year that we weren't able to continue this year. And we are continuing the Foundation's phonemic awareness program, phonics program in kindergarten. Next slide. Our current assessments are the iReady that the whole district is doing. And this year, we do have the math diagnostic is now available in Spanish, and that's a good thing. And we also are assessing the ARC independent reading levels. But other than that, there's not a lot of assessment going on this year. We're trying to focus much more on instruction when we've got those kids connected to us either in person or online. That's what we want to focus on. Next slide is some of the things that we're proud of this school year. The staff has been amazing at collaborating, even though they're not able to do so, close together. A lot of problem solving as a team, which is something that we're very proud of at Sweeney. And as the board just mentioned, the willingness of all staff to step up and help beyond what they normally have been expected to do. Very surprised at how smoothly the students took to wearing their masks. It's really been excellent from all of our students, including our district-wide autism program, the Titans. They've been doing a great job. My custodial staff, like the rest of the district, has been really knocking themselves out. We've been very surprised at how smoothly our PPT meetings have gone now that they're completely virtual. We feel like in some ways they're getting to be more productive than they were when we were in person. And at Sweeney, we have been able, because of the size of the gym, which is also our cafeteria, we've been able to use the cafeteria for all of our lunch waves. So no one has been eating lunch in the classrooms. That will change when we bring both cohorts back. But so those are all things that have been going well. Next slide is just from our Titans autism program, and they have been doing an awesome job. This is just a few pictures of those kids. The next slide, school climate. Is a big emphasis, and we've been trying to boost up everybody, the students and the teachers and other staff members alike. We have had a lot of luck at Sweeney with amazing retention and consistency of staff. So without having a lot of new people, it's a lot easier to maintain the kind of collaboration that we have. So these are just some of the things that we've been working on. And for the board members who know that you won't be able to come to a feast in November at Sweeney School this year, we are planning a virtual thankful celebration, which you will all get. We've had 2 meetings on that so far, and we've been having spirit days as well. And so the next slide really is just some spirit days that already happened. They were upcoming at the time that you met. And then just to finish with the challenges that we've had, the teachers are amazing. The synchronous teaching with a majority of students being virtual is very challenged to balance with in-person instruction, especially at the elementary age. It's difficult. The teachers have to be attending to the kids on the computer, and if they're muted, if they're not muted, if they're in the right place, if they're in the wrong place, if their parents are asking questions, and all of this while the kids are in the classroom. And then also the reliability and capacity of the technology is a struggle for teachers and students. So those have been challenges that people have been great about helping each other out with, and really being positive and viewing it all as problem solving. And I don't know if you can see the little guy in the upper left on the screen on this one that says challenges so far. His dog is licking his ear, and this is just like something normal that you see when you go in and watch the teachers teaching and the kids are at home. This is just what you see. And the last slide is just that everyone is working very hard to maintain engagement of the virtual learners, especially when the in-person students require attention. My teachers are really trying their best, going above and beyond, but they are concerned, and I'm concerned about sustaining the level of extra work that's required. So, we're just really doing our best, and I really am appreciative of all their hard work and very appreciative of central office and the board for recognizing all the hard work that the teachers are putting in. And that's Sweeney
Thank you.
School.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. That was a great presentation. Are there any quick questions from any of the board members?
Okay, great.
Well, kudos to you and your team and the
Thank
whole
you.
school. Thanks.
Thank you.
So the next person up is, well, we have Natchog School, and we're going to hear from Eben Jones. Eben,
Hey
you're
everybody,
on.
evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Janet gave me permission to do that, so I'm going to give that a shot here. Uh-oh, I need the permission first.
Tracy, can you give him permission, please?
Still disabled, Janet, if you can give me permission. Okay, I'll give it one more try. Uh-oh.
Can Janet do it for you if she can?
Yeah, she has an updated one. I think so, unless she can give me permission, and I will share.
I tried to give you permission, but I can't, so hopefully Janet can.
Oh, it's working. Here we go.
Okay.
So, oops, we'll go back one. So, welcome everybody. Natchog School. Natchog does mean land between two rivers, in case anybody didn't know that. A little trivia for you tonight. And we do have a wiki page also, so you can always tune into that if you need some good Natchog trivia that's maintained by an ex-student. So when I was asked to put up a picture of the leadership team, I wanted to say that we are all teachers, learners, and leaders. And you can tell this is last year's photo, right? As we are close together and not socially distanced with masks on. But I really believe in shared leadership. And one of the opportunities that this whole COVID thing has actually provided, and that's right, I did say an opportunity and not an obstacle, is that the whole team has really stepped up and taken on the roles of teacher, learner, and leader, mostly in the area of technology. But there have been a lot of other areas that, the team has stepped up to take on the role of a leader or a teacher for the others in the community, which is great. Here's our current enrollment numbers, just for everybody to see. We do have 306 students currently, and we have about 30% in our cohort A of our students, 30% in cohort B, and then we just have about 30% that are virtual students only, which sounds like it differs a bit from Sweeney. I wanted to give you an attendance snapshot. So I've given you two snapshots here just for your, just to look at. The first is a range of dates, and that's when we first started, September 8th to September 30th. And you could kind of see by grade level what it looked like. And overall, we ended up being at 82%, which is, not where we wanted to be, or not where we want to be. And then as I prepared for this, I chose the date before we were originally going to present these slideshows, and that was October 1st. And you can see Natchog was on a great trajectory in terms of improving attendance, which is exactly what we wanted to see. I do have to say, just as Angela reported, that probably there's a little blip right now in terms of going virtual and how changing routines and consistencies affects our families. So I think that's just one thing that we really want to be cognizant of as we're making changes. In terms of engagement, we do have something that we call a Google Tracker, and our whole community warehouses information in one Google tracking sheet. And so we know exactly how many students are participating, who's participating and who's not participating. If there are students that are lost, right, and I'm happy to report that there are no lost students at Natchog, and sort of levels of participation. So 24% of our 306 students were students that we were concerned about, and some of the mediation strategies that we've used to check in on this low engagement included, home visits, emails. That's probably not our best strategy. Phone calls, a lot of tech support and one-on-one supports for families, kids, whoever needed it, family meetings, use of the social workers, the family liaison, and then myself. And I have to say, I didn't see Dr. Ware, but he inspired me last year when I heard about how he was really going on a lot of home visits and taking a really active role in his students' participation. And so I wanted to do the same thing. And so I've been doing just a lot of that, and my team's been doing a lot of that, and we've actually logged 85 home visits so far. There's probably more, but that's what's in the log so far. And then important events, we have our PTO meeting every second Thursday. I saw Pam Bebo on. She does a lot of work for our PTO. We have our first SGC meeting coming up, ARC trainings, which we're really excited about. We love ARC. And iReady, Picture Day is coming up. And traditionally, that's one of our best attendance days at Natchog. So I'll show you that snapshot after attendance day. After Picture Day. Focus areas, these are things that we've been focusing on since this is my 4th year at Natchog. So these are the things that we've really been focusing on, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. And the WIN rollout was one thing that really spearheaded an improvement in academic achievement at Natchog. And we're going to be looking, we haven't been able to roll it out during COVID because it is already sort of an all hands on deck time at school, but we are going to be looking at, how we can roll this out, or, right, we'll have a vaccine and things will go back to normal and we can just do what we were doing and get those same great results. But also, another exciting thing is all of the social emotional work that we've been doing at Natchog. We have some experience with the Ruler program from Yale, the Emotional Intelligence program, restorative practices, and responsive classroom. And the exciting thing for me to talk about responsive classroom is when I was getting hired for the job at Natchog as principal through a Skype interview, I had to do a performance task, and that was roll out something that would help Natchog, something that would help the behaviors at the school. And I presented a responsive classroom rollout. So it's really exciting to see it actually happen, and that it wasn't just a performance task. So new initiatives, grade 5 for ARC, that's something we're really excited about. Responsive classroom year 2, and then walking Wednesdays. Our staff members and myself are going out and walking in the community and doing home visits. And it's just so great when you're able to connect with families. It helps remove the judgment and create some empathy and some understanding, and really drill down to what families need so that we can support our families and get a job done together. Pride points. This is probably my favorite slide. We've been, one of the things that we've been talking about at Natchog is highlighting the bright spots, not always focusing on the challenges or the hard things, because you can get stuck on those things, but focusing on the bright spots and trying to recreate those bright spots where we find them. And that's about staff collaboration and connecting with your colleagues to see what they're doing so that we all don't have to, recreate the work. So the Google Tracker I talked a little bit about, 0 lost students. We've contacted, contact with every family. Staff absences are down. I don't have a data point for you here, but I just know they're down. I do a staff absence report every morning, so I know that. We're really proud of our building created tech support team that has worked so hard to make sure students have Chromebooks, jetpacks. They'll go to their houses and ask them to come outside and coach them from outside. So that has been really, really, really helpful, because we understand that the technology really is the pipeline for the academics, and without it, kids and families are going to be stuck. So I talked a little bit about student attendance, and another really thing that is really, really cool about Natchog is that we are the downtown school. We're the school that you see as you roll across the Frog Bridge. Our students don't have to take a bus for field trips and to get out in the community. And there are so many community partnerships. I think it was 2 years ago at the 5th grade commencement, I just talked about how exciting it was to be working in a place that had so many partners, so many great partners in the community that were willing to support or just willing to enrich a school community. So that's a really exciting thing. And we almost end up being a lab school for Eastern. And of course we have UConn students too. Excuse me. Our own professional growth around technology. And then that we are a K4 Dos Rios school, and that our building actually hosts 4 different educational programs. And then another thing that really struck me the other day was our staff and student diversity. We were celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month together, and there were 20 staff members, all from Hispanic countries, that were sharing something about their heritage and why they were proud to be Hispanic. So that was really amazing also. And then of course, we were a school of distinction in 1718, but not willing to ever rest on our laurels, right? We're going to keep becoming more and more distinct. I don't like to focus on the challenges, but in terms of challenges, as we rolled everything out this year, technological resources were challenging, right? And the training. We had staff members and students and families all in different places in terms of their comfort with technology. So, meeting everybody where they were and supporting them. And then Tracy mentioned, Dr. Youngberg mentioned staffing needs and just how difficult it is. We don't have anybody out with COVID, but we do have staff members out for different reasons, and just finding coverage for them this year has been a real challenge. Synchronous learning and teaching, as Angela mentioned, is also a challenge. And so we're hoping to really kind of look at that across the district and with all of our colleagues to come up with solutions that'll help teachers so they don't have to work so hard. And then we do house 2 behavioral programs, and they can be challenging just in terms of the time that is involved and needs to be invested to really do a nice job with those programs. And then facilities, Dr. Youngberg also mentioned, Natchog is the oldest school, and so, with anything old and dear, right, it needs care. So, so that's also something that we, are always thinking about. We need a couple more bottle fillers when you get a chance. And that's all I have for you. I don't know if anybody had any questions.
Thank you. Very clever quote there at the bottom of that slide about the devil.
Yeah, I can thank, I think Michelle Dupuy, my super coach, helped me with that one.
That's very good. Well, thank you. Is there anybody on the board who has any questions?
Awesomeness. I just wanted to say thank you for the home visits, and I love the picture of the boombox.
Okay.
Lynn,
Yes?
it's Paula.
Oh, hi, Paula. Sure.
Hi, I just wanted to say that the years that I spent on the School Governance Council for NatChog, I was always amazed at the connection that the school faculty made with the families. It was just always something that really warmed my heart, and I'm glad to see they're still doing it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Evan, and your whole team at NatChog.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from Liz Baumgartner at North Windham School.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Janet, click, I think, is what I'm supposed to say.
One more, Janet. Technical difficulties beyond our control.
Okay.
Stand by.
Okay.
Neil, we might have you sing to fill the time. How you feeling about that?
Oh,
we lost the screen altogether.
I feel fine about the singing. I just don't know how the audience will feel.
Good point.
Well, sing.
So is Janet unable to get
She's working on it.
Okay.
Just give me a moment.
Well, welcome to virtual teaching, Mary writes in the, yes, yes. Well, while we're waiting, maybe we could see if there are any reports from the committees. So then we can go back. Does that make sense? Until
That sounds like a
Janet
good
gets
plan.
it up
She's
and
still
running?
trying to work on it, so that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so is there any report from the Finance and Audit Committee? Mark?
Well, I guess the two things that we have, the budget transfers that we worked on that are maybe approved tonight, and we have the new policy that we sent to the policy committee for transfers. Those are the two major committee.
So we'll be talking about that. Well, it looks like we're ready then on North Windham School.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come back, Mark.
Janet,
So there you go, Liz.
Hold on one second, because she's saying she's not able to change the slide. Something's going on.
Okay, so, okay.
Want to keep going with your
Okay, we'll keep going. So we have, so Mark, as Mark pointed out, we have two items that we're going to be taking up on under the action items from the Finance and Audit Committee, the transfers and the policy on budget transfer of funds between categories. Is that, you want to say anything more about?
I think that's pretty much it. That was, it's.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions for Mark? Okay, while we're waiting for the technology to get fixed, we'll move on to Tracy Lambert, school planning and design. Nope, Tracy's not in the room, it looks like. So how about Ilda and the policy committee?
Okay, a lot of technical
busy.
difficulties tonight. Yeah, we've been busy. We met last week for our monthly meeting, and yes, we were very busy. We've brought you guys a lot to do, a lot to look at. And our next meeting is, I believe, November 14th, 13th, something like that. So, and that's it. We're meeting regularly, and we have a lot of participation from both the board and from Windham Public Schools. A lot of people come to our meetings. Well, come virtually. That's it. Thank you.
Just one thing on the policy committee. There is a decision that has to be made on policy number 6173. If you go to the handout that I sent, you'll see there's a question is the second bullet that needs to be decided.
Just to give you an update, she's trying to put up the Barrows presentation because there's something wrong with the format on the North Windham Schools presentation. She's not able to, so we're trying to see if the same issue exists in Barrows. So
Okay.
I'll let her fiddle with it for a minute.
Okay, so 6173, why don't we take a look at that? So it's homebound and hospitalization. The question that's on the sheet that was sent to us that we'll need to take action on.
Oh, you got two? It should be there now, I hope.
While Janet is still figuring that out, is
No, I'll
to
fix it.
include the optional
While he's
language that,
doing his, I'll go back.
quote, no teacher. Janet, could you mute yourself, please?
Oh, sorry.
The question is to include the optional language that no teacher during the school year shall accept remuneration for tutoring students in his/her class unless the student is designated as a homebound student and the tutor is employed by the Board of Education. So is that under the action items, or are we going to need to add that?
Yes, I did see it in the action items.
Yeah, 6173 is number 16 on the action.
No, but this is the first reading. I'm looking for the act, that's under the readings.
Right.
It's not under the action items on the budget. I mean, in the agenda.
No, it will go on the action items in our next meeting.
Okay, okay.
But it has to be decided so that I can change the, for the second reading, I can reflect the change that you'd like to see. So that in the second reading, it's correct.
Okay, we'll take care of that for the next, by the next meeting.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry, I was confused, Janet.
No, so it needs to be decided tonight whether or not you'd like it to be included in the second, for the second reading. So that when we do the second reading, it's correct. So the board needs to make a decision whether they want that statement in the policy.
Okay, so should we make a motion to add?
You don't need to make a motion. It's just
an item.
No, it's not a motion. It's just a discussion of that policy. You tell me what you'd like to do, then I will adjust the policy for the second reading and it'll be correct in the second reading and then it'll just pass that.
Okay.
Okay, well, so does anybody on the board have any opinion about that?
Well, I think it should be included so that it's very clear that no teacher or staff gets remunerated for tutoring a student unless it's part of, you know, our job here.
Anybody else on the board want to weigh in on that?
This is Paula Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I remember seeing that in the policy we reviewed, and yes, I agree that it should be in there.
So how about we make a motion that we add that?
Well, Janet's saying we don't need to do that. We can just direct her to include it in. Hilda.
I'm okay with that as well. This is Tracy Lambert.
Okay. So Ilda, Tracy, Paula, Katina, Mary has given the thumbs up. Jaime
okay.
or Mark's
I'm
okay with it. Jaime?
I don't think Jaime's here tonight.
Yes, he is.
He is?
He was, I saw him.
I am here. Okay, yes, I'll give my thumbs up. It's okay with me.
Okay. You know, I can't see all the people. That's it, because they're like 5 pages of people.
Can't see all the squares.
Yeah, all the squares. Sorry, Jaime. So,
Okay.
okay, so Janet, you got the go ahead.
Thank you. I'll adjust.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Queen Janet.
Any other questions for the policy committee before we move on? Are we ready to do a presentation yet?
Yes, we're going to do Barrows first.
Okay. So we're ready to do Barrows now, and then we'll come back to school planning and design, Tracy, after we do the school reports. And Tim McClure, are you with us tonight?
I am.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. You're on.
I was hiding with my video off the whole time, so.
That's okay.
All right, Janet, you can go ahead to the next one. Maybe.
It feels like the universe is trying to tell us not to have school presentations. This is the second time.
Hey, if it doesn't work, I'll just talk through it. So.
Okay.
The next slide is just my favorite picture. Somebody took it from a drone, so it's a great picture of Barrows from an elevated standpoint.
Oh, okay. So now we're all just going to have to use our listening skills now and listen to.
That's right. So, okay, Tim, let's see if you can walk us through the presentation without any visual supports.
All right. Well, I got all my pictures and notes right here, so not that it'll help everybody in the audience, but basically we had the leadership team next, and maybe I'll pause. Hold on. Is it working, Janet?
All right, so maybe we need to make an executive decision to send you all these presentations. Hopefully you'll be able to advance them. And I apologize to Tim and Liz because this is the second time now that they've been put off. Does that work? I'm gonna keep trying. Janet's gonna keep trying, but it's, okay.
Are you, okay, so we don't want Tim to keep just talking?
Well, you want him to talk without, hey, okay.
What do you got? What does the board think? Do you want to wait until we can see a visual presentation?
No, I would rather just talk through it. We can look at.
Talk through it and then we can be sent it afterwards.
Thank you.
Okay, and what I can do is I can send you the updated version that actually has my notes on it as well. So there's some information obviously on the slide, but I have some notes below that I think would be good for you to read as well. So I can send that updated information to Janet tomorrow. But,
okay.
So if we walk through the general format that was given us, the next thing came was the leadership team. And so I had a picture of myself, Katie Firth, and Bob Klajian, clearly taken before COVID, kind of like Eben's staff picture right there, because there's no masks on there and it's not 6 foot social distancing. So please note on that one. And then I have all my team leaders listed, but what I wanted to say was, although I have the administrators pictured there and the team leaders listed, there are so many others who are providing leadership this year, and actually each year that I've been there within the building in so many different ways, especially in this hybrid and virtual world that we're living in. There are so many teachers and tutors and other adults just going above and beyond to support both the students and their fellow staff on a daily basis. So it's truly like a whole community-based environment there at Barrows. From an enrollment standpoint, we have about 545 to 549 students. I took enrollment information from day one of school, but then it changed a little bit. I have a little more fluctuation with some people coming in and coming out. So the numbers will be a little bit different from the.
Oh, it's working.
Yeah,
okay.
She just got it up and working. We're hoping North Windham will work too.
All right. Okay. So here's the enrollment information. Like I said, it was from the first day of school. So it has some general stuff of what we have, our in-district versus out-of-district students. And again, that changes subtly, between this particular slide and when we go ahead and get to the attendance. So you can see the breakdown, a little bit of what we have going on right there. Janet, can you go to the next one by any chance? The manual? Okay. So, and again, like the others, this was taken from the last week of September from what we had information then preparing for the original presentation. But at about 76.5% of our students were actually physically in person at that point in time. You can see the breakdown between how many were there for cohort A and cohort B. And then that means about just over 24% were fully virtual at that point in time. Go ahead, Janet. All right, from an attendance engagement standpoint, we're finding that for the most part, if they're attending, they're engaging. So similar to some of the information Eben had right there, from either like a moderate to a higher level, the ones that we're having difficulties with in attendance are the students that are not engaged as well. But the information we had from back then, you can see what our information was. All right, one thing that I do like to point out on that one, again, this was as of September 25th on the right-hand column, 57% of the students had perfect attendance at that point in time. All right, and that's 308 students out of our 545 on that particular date. Now, those numbers have since changed, but as of the end of the week last week, we still have 219 students, or 40% of our entire population, still with perfect attendance, and another 101 students, all right, for a total of 320, or 59%, have either a single absence or less. And we're actually sending them out a nice letter in the mail tomorrow, just congratulating them on their good attendance so far and encouraging them to keep that up as one way to help motivate them to continue to do so. Similar to some things that people had said, we're doing everything we can, you know, to contact and communicate with families regarding attendance and engagement almost on a daily basis. But we are still concerned a little bit, and it's primarily the students that are fully virtual, or when students are not in person. And on those days during the hybrid that they are virtual, that's where our major concern is, and that's where we're recognizing our attendance is falling a little bit short. Go ahead, Janet. Couple of important dates. Well, Hispanic Heritage Month is coming to an end here. We were gonna recognize anti-bullying and have a dress down day for our students. We'll reschedule that. I know that was a big emphasis for this particular month as well. Obviously, that would be happening this particular Thursday, or sorry, that would have been happening now. So we'll just postpone that. iReady testing, we're actually done at this point in time. So our PTO does meet the first Thursday of each month. And the newest information that I received and was finalized that I need to put out to everybody, our picture day was going to occur during our now fully virtual time, so we rescheduled it. Our picture days are going to be November 9th and November 10th at this particular point in time. So, barring any other unforeseen circumstances. Go ahead, Janet. All right, thank you. So the new initiatives that we have, you know, going on for this year. Oops, sorry. Okay, yep. New initiatives, focus areas. So synchronous learning, obviously everybody, it's all on their mind. That's what we're doing so far this year. Grade 5 ARC was mentioned previously in another presentation. Our K-5 STEM alignment, so as we're getting these ARC units coming in, you know, we have a integrated curriculum and kind of a unique curriculum at STEM that we are trying to adhere to and stay true to. So we're readjusting some things as we're getting like ARC units coming in and going like that. We also readjusted some of our science units to make sure that they align with the middle school for this year as well, so that everybody's all right in line. We're doing some SEL presentations and videos. Our school counselors and social workers are kind of creating those, and they're pushing those out on a weekly basis to help with our social emotional stuff for the students. That's one of the things we're doing. And then we've noticed over the last couple of years, through the different data points that we've collected, that there's definitely a need for more writing and writing instruction to occur. So we're trying to bring that back into the fold. A hybrid model and the students, you know, being out does make that a little more challenging right now, but we know that that's something that as a school we're going to have to continue to work on and keep improving upon throughout this year and probably, you know, going forward into the future as well. Okay, go ahead, Sarah. Some of the points of pride. I know Angela, I think, mentioned it as well. In terms of students and wearing the mask, we really have had no issues at all. You know, every now and then there's like, it might slip below the nose, but if you mention it, they take care of it right away. And from a student behavior standpoint, or kind of, I guess, a worry coming into the year, hey, that's been great. So very happy how that's going. I can't express how important and how happy I am with the collaboration that is occurring between the adults within the building. we have different people that, as I mentioned before, just stepping up all over the place to support in so many different ways. Definitely with the technology, because we have people at different levels, and we also have some staff that are very fluent in a lot of the different platforms that are being used. We have multiple platforms and so many different things that are happening. So, and they're helping both parents that are having technology issues and students, as well as some of the staff within the building, right? I kind of mentioned the social emotional lessons that are being pushed out already. We find they're very informative and they're targeted to the student needs, and they're based on the responses from previous lessons. So the students have an opportunity to respond, and based on that, that gives us a direction of where to go for future videos to address their needs, right? And then I know it's kind of like might be a little bit different, but the drop off and pickup efficiency, the first few days of school, there's so many parents that are bringing kids and dropping them off and picking them up every day. I don't know if you guys have seen the actual bus data, or if Dr. Youngberg has shared that with you. Like, the population of students on the bus is not overly high, which means they're getting to school in some other way, shape, or form. And at Barrows, you're not walking, so you're getting driven somehow. It took us about 25, almost 30 minutes to get everybody out of the school to all their rides in the first day of school. There was just so many. I mean, the line was all the way down to like Tucky Road and going from there. Now we can do it in about 12 minutes. So like the efficiencies are just incredible, and it's definitely a tribute to a lot of the adults and the staff that are out there working with that. They have a great system down. Very visual, I like to say, as well. All right. And we also have virtual field studies. So a lot of what we do are hands-on and try to, get our students out there from a science perspective. Obviously, we're not able to do that at the moment. So we're trying to do some things virtually to still bring that experience to them. Right? And then for the challenges, again, very similar to what some other people had, synchronous learning. Yes, we're learning it, it's new, but it's extremely challenging. And I think we're getting better at it, but it's still a huge stressor, and to try to be able to do both at the same time, not much else I can really say. It's overwhelming at times, right? Our teachers also, they want to do their best for the students on a daily basis, and sometimes with the virtual learning or the blended model you have, it's very difficult to do that. You can't differentiate right on the spot for that student who's in front of you when they're a box on your computer screen. All right. Technology issues, you've heard about them already. It's just some things that are out of our control at the moment, and they get very frustrating for the students, for the teachers, and also for the parents that are trying to help the students at home. The teaching the students the new platforms, at this point in time now, again, we're a few weeks after I created this presentation, things are definitely better, but that was a new challenge to begin the school year. And then finally, the engagement, as I mentioned before on the attendance slide, of the virtual students is something we continue to work on a daily basis. So. And I believe that's it for now. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Well, thank you. That was great from everyone. I was looking forward to seeing that first picture of the drone took of the school.
She might be able to put it back up for you.
I don't really want to slow us down with technology.
We'll send you the picture.
So I don't want to jinx
We'll
us.
send it to you.
My screensaver, so.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So are we, Mark, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a general question, and I don't expect the answer tonight, but I keep hearing the engagement and attendance levels now that we've been virtual, but I don't have a frame for reference for, are they much better or much worse, or in comparison to last year, this time when we were in school, we didn't have the pandemic. So 80% sounds like a lot, but if I was running 87% last year, maybe it isn't that big a drop. At some point, I'd just be curious as to what the thought was of the attendance and engagement level now versus what it was when we were actually in school.
Well, you'd like a comparison, like the
Yeah,
baseline against which we're measuring.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether Tracy or Neil want to say
I think
anything about that.
we can pull you some data on that so you can actually see. We wouldn't have been potentially tracking engagement, but we definitely have attendance data. We could do a comparison of where we stood last year at this time and now.
Maybe in an upcoming board packet, we can get that
That would be
information.
fine, yeah. Just give me a frame of reference as to how we're dropping off or how we're comparing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. And got some great feedback from working at home, a parent working at home about the SEL lessons for the Barrow students. So I hope you read that in the comments, the staff from Barrow School. And a shout out to Jennifer King. So that's great.
Yep.
So Liz.
All right. North Windham is working, yay.
Liz Baumgartner.
Hi, everybody.
Last but not least,
Thank
you're
you.
on.
So this is part of our leadership and steering committee. I included myself with the mask and the visor because I actually think I have students and parents who wouldn't recognize me right now unless I had that on. So, but anyway, and I have a great steering committee, and I'll speak a little bit about that work that's happened. Sarah Rodriguez and Robin Christoph, Dana Irons, Jessica Hyam, and Amy Majak have been a part of that leadership team. And so I'm excited to be able to share some of that with you tonight. Go ahead, Janet. So our North Windham School enrollment is currently 430 students. Now, I do want to say that obviously this was done for the presentation for the Board of Ed retreat for October 9th. So some of the numbers, slightly will vary. But as of that October 1st date, our enrollment was 430 students. There were 37% or 157 students were virtual. 34% or 148 students were cohort A. And then for cohort B, it was 29% or 124 students for North Windham enrollment. So North Windham attendance and strategies. North Windham attendance rate was 91.95% as of October 1st. The range of absences were obviously from September 8th to October 2nd, and those were the ranges or the daily rate. And so in order to ensure that our attendance rates remained high and our students remain engaged during this time, that we were doing the following. We're prioritizing our relationships between students, teachers, parents, and school and families, in particular during this time, in order to be able to engage our families through our virtual platforms. It's not an easy task as we're sitting here in a meeting tonight. We know how difficult it is to keep that engagement. And so prioritizing those relationships and making those connections is really critical and important. We want to have increased and direct communication with families for teachers in the school. We do that through all modes. I use Blackboard, I use Parent Square, we have Class Dojo, we have lots of platforms. And we do that and Parent Square being one of the main ones, but we do that because we're trying to access our parents in whatever way is easiest for them, right? And so however we can do that, we attempt. Even right now, one of the things that's been really successful, our cafeteria staff is amazing, and they've been there every morning from 7:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. to deliver, to have our pickup of foods. And every morning we've posted what the menu is for our families. And so we actually have, those are some of the most shared posts for our Windham site. And so for our North Windham school site. And so every morning they get a picture of what they're going to get for their lunch and it gets shared out. So we know that our families are seeing it and they're sharing it, and it's important to get that direct communication out there. We also are celebrating attendance through our PBIS ceremonies, also what we're calling our all school morning announcements and so forth. This has been something that's been going on for North Windham. Our attendance rates have maintained at a pretty high rate. And so we don't want to lose that momentum. Almost similar to what Eben had said earlier in his presentation, when you have the momentum going, you want to keep it going. And so we are really looking at our attendance. We do have an attendance team that's strong. It includes our family liaison, Angel, our social workers, myself, our secretarial staff, and so forth. People that can make the connections out there to the families. And so it's important to talk about attendance, and we do that on a regular basis. And so we have seen at least a steady attendance even right now as we are remote. Can go to the next one. So upcoming, these were actually dates that were done prior to the Board of Ed retreat, but the distribution of materials, that is something that's going to go, that will happen monthly. And what that means is our virtual students do need their materials because they're not in school. And so we have a monthly pickup. We've done one for October, we'll have one for November. So as teachers prepare materials or have things that they may need to have their virtual students receive, we are having a distribution of materials day where parents can, it's almost like a drive-through. They come through and then we hand them the materials that the students need from their classrooms. We had Hispanic Heritage Daily Staff Recognitions. We do that at North Windham annual basis, and we celebrate it actually every day at North Windham. And we did it through our staff recognitions of morning announcements and showcasing where our staff, our very diverse staff, is from. And we did that through our morning announcements. We also have our PBIS recognition ceremonies. We have on Friday, we'll have our school-wide morning meeting. Where our focus for this month is attendance, so we'll be recognizing our virtual attendance students as well as our A cohort and B cohort students for attendance. And so it's important to continue that recognition for our students. And then we're attempting the PTO virtual meetings. They'll be happening monthly beginning November, and our SGC virtual meetings also beginning November. And just like Tim McClure had said earlier about our benchmark testing, iReady, and completion of our last October 2020 has just happened in this past month. We actually want to highlight our kindergarten open house. This was the picture to the left is our kindergarten teachers and our para support staff making a presentation to our parents. We had a very well attended open house. We did it in rotations. We had 5 families at a time, social distance, and we're able to tour the school. And there's our new kindergarten family there to the right. It was very successful, very well attended in North Windham, and we were able to keep everybody safe and healthy and follow other mitigation strategies that were required, and we were able to have an in-person open house. Obviously, we wanted to include we did celebrate our National Custodians Day, and this is our great custodial staff. The work that has been put into our buildings is tremendous. The amount of cleaning and sanitizing that has to happen on a daily basis is like never before. But our custodial staff does it every day with a smile on their face, and we've been able to keep our buildings not only looking great, but also sanitized in the way that they need to. We always celebrate Hispanic Heritage. This is just our front entry area where we highlighted our Hispanic heritage within our building. And we have staff from all over the world, everywhere from Spain to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, you name it. We are here at North Windham. So it's a great way to celebrate our diversity. Our focus area, SEL for all, and we recognize that is a focus of the district. But for us, we want to build our relationships and provide support. And again, we want to prioritize the relationships. We want to provide time and opportunities for teachers to directly support students, implement school community activities, and that's really happens on Wellness Wednesdays. We have office hours, we have one-on-one sessions with students, social activities that occur. There's some teachers that do some morning meetings again on Wednesdays and so forth. And so we want to ensure that our students and staff feel safe, cared for, and supported. We did a staff survey, which came out of our steering committee, sent out to determine trend stressors to analyze and improve our climate. And this was direct steering committee work. and our daily announcements, celebrations, and we do that, example, pajama days for earning 100 perfections, etc. And trust circles, and I want to thank, again, Mr. Jones shared this with me last year, in regards to trust circles established to support honest, safe, and reflective conversations between one another. Those are some of the areas that we're focusing on for SEL. These are samples of our classrooms. If you were able to freely walk around as we used to be able to do through our building, these are some of the things that you would see for our SEL classroom visuals. We have the wave now, or you have, you know, touching the elbows and so forth in regards to all the things that we, how we greet each other now in COVID times. And also in our building, we not only do our SEL focus in English, but many of our things are always in Spanish. And so I just wanted to include a sample of that so you could see what it looks like in our Spanish compañeros classrooms. So we have lots of things to be proud of. Our students, our staff, and our families. COVID-19 has not deterred our school community to doing what is best for our school. And I see that every day over and over and over again. We're super proud of the implementation of our steering committee. This was created to support our focus on the positive climate and culture of our school community. Participation of the start of our trust circles for our staff to improve communications to support and a caring and safe workplace. We are very proud. One of the things, and Tracy and Neil can both attest to this, we had multiple conversations about the arrival and dismissal at North Windham. It was a huge, huge undertaking. We knew that our numbers of our drop-off students was going to increase, and we just don't have the roadway to be able to do that safely. We were able to work with M&J. Tracy gave us some leeway on the end time for our school, and that was enough to make our arrival and dismissal process, along with the team that put all that together, possible. If you've ever been able to, if you're able to just come and watch it, even at the end of the day, it's a really well-oiled machine, and it's happening and it's working great. Can you hear me? I got an internet connection unstable. Can you still hear? Okay. And it was necessary due to the new protocols that provided safe procedures for our students and their families. And I want to say that it's worked well. So we're happy that that undertaking was able to be done, and it's worked out. We're super proud of our mass break zones. If you see the picture on the bottom left, on bottom right, you'll see kind of the mesh areas. We did block out a couple of areas in the back. We have some grass. We have a lot of grass space at North Windham. So each one of our classrooms can open their back door and have an area that's only for them in order to be able to have mass breaks. So if you see those and you visit our back area and our blacktop area, you'll see that, and that's what those are for. Those are all designated mass break zones for our school. We have recess zones that have been divided up into 4 areas in the back area for our students to be able to have recess and stay within the separated requirement. And then we also have clean and dirty recess twice procedures. Each classroom, and in the next slide, you'll see it. There's baskets where they're tagged clean on one side, dirty, so that our toys go out clean. Then they come back with a dirty sign. You flip it, and then they're disinfected at the end of the day to ensure our recess toys are cleaned on a daily basis. The continued use of the regulation room for students that need social emotional support and build-in breaks daily, that's continued with our staff. Our morning announcements, we're proud of those. We celebrate positive news for our students and staff, in addition to a great kid joke every day. We have great kid jokes at North Windham, so if you want to have a laugh, we can send you the kid joke for the day. And then we have our celebrations that recognize attendance, student engagement, and pride in our school values of respect, responsibility, caring, and safety. And also the implementation of what we call an IT help desk for in-person students for right now issues. So we have, one of the things that we've been able to do is that if a student doesn't bring a computer or forgets it at home for in-person kids, we're able to have a process that we can deal with the in-house tech issues like that. I'll speak to some of the challenges later that have to do with tech, but those are one of the ways that we resolved some of those issues. Also, prior to this PowerPoint, we were working on what we called the digital team. And I'm super proud of that and want to just share that very quickly. But North Windham has created what we call a digital team through the steering committee work and as part of the feedback that we received back from our teachers during the survey. And what that the digital team does is actually digitize, if that's even a word, anything that teachers need as a resource, whether it's from any of our resources that we use, our math resources, our ARC resources, and they're now creating a massive library of already done resource materials for our teachers. So they go in their folder for grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or kindergarten, and they're able to find the resources that they use, but in the digital version. So that's pretty amazing work. And we just started doing that last week and already have developed quite a lot of resources in our library. And then the pictures there are just a little bit of what we see every day at North Windham in regards to the spacing between our desks. Our specials teachers right now are on a cart, though we had classrooms for them, but they've been able to go into classrooms now on the carts. We were able to get them carts to be able to do that work. And as you can see in the library, you can see that they're spaced apart, and we're trying to follow all the social distancing protocols. And in the next picture, that's the basket I was talking about in regards to recess. One of our teachers on the right, Ms. Holden, wearing her pajama day for her celebrations of her students' perfections in her unicorn outfit. You can see our student at the bottom there doing some work. And the classroom, just the setup, and then our outside play area. As you can see, it's pretty spaced out as we do our recess and follow our recess zones. And our challenges are very similar to our other schools. It's around tech support for our virtual students have been challenging to manage with limited IT support. And it's not at all anything that has to do with our tech teachers. Our IT department has been phenomenal. They are there for us all the time. It's just we have limited support right now, and our tech teacher teaches all day, and so it's really difficult to manage both the tech requests from issues with student computers and so forth. It's also impacted our secretarial staff because they do answer the calls from families that are having some challenges with computers. So we are definitely trying to figure out and work on how we best can support that area in order for support for our virtual students and anybody actually using a computer. Classroom coverage that ensures that cohorts remain safe and healthy at all times. We've had some minimal Kelly services coverage for teachers since the start of the school year. But when you have a large school and you have regular absences in addition to COVID-related absences, it becomes challenging. In North Windham, we've had multiple times where we've had to address the quarantine dilemma. And so it's challenging to be able to cover all the classrooms that need to be covered when there's a massive amounts of staff that may be absent for those reasons. And again, I think everyone's has spoken about this in all of their presentations, but synchronous teaching is challenging at the elementary level. It's due to the developmental and academic needs of our youngest students. I was a kindergarten teacher before I became a principal for 15 years. And when you have a 4 and a 5-year-old that you're working with in a classroom and also trying to keep that 4 and 5-year-old engaged while they're at home, all of that, trying to do that all at the same time is very, very difficult. And so I think our teachers are amazing. They're doing their very, very best and they're doing right by our kids, but it is challenging. And I think, thinking about ways we can brainstorm that area in particular may be a good way to go. And then even with some challenges, we got this North Windham School And we have our kids that were actually outside enjoying some outdoor time. We have a great outdoor space, and that's a plus for us. And so we, as much as we can get outside before the weather turns, we're going to be out there enjoying it. So thank you so much. Is there any questions?
Thank you very much. And kudos to your whole team. I'm sure Eben is jealous that you have all that outdoor space to go play in.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz, and to all the principals who presented tonight. I really appreciate your time and, you know, addressing, letting everyone sort of get a glimpse of what's happening in your schools. So thank you.
Is there anybody on the board who would like to ask any questions or say anything right now?
Lynn, may I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Tracy.
All right, this is Tracy Lambert. I just want to have the principals relay to all of your staff that we are aware of the undertaking that you are undertaking, for lack of a better way of saying that, and that we are greatly appreciative and we are not unsympathetic to all the work you're doing. I know a lot of you are giving up your weekend time and your evening time and your family time, even though you could go for a hike or something like that, socially distanced. And we are very grateful for all of your hard work, and we know it's not easy, and we hear you, but we're all kind of in this boat together, and we're grateful that none of you are trying to bail on us. So thank you guys all for your work, and thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
Elda, quick, take a look at the picture. That's the drone. That's
okay.
The drone shot Tim was talking about.
I see it. It's beautiful.
So it's getting to be quite late, folks. So I'm going to keep us moving along, and I want to thank the principals who were thwarted in their presentations at our retreat, and it's nice that you could spend the evening with us here tonight. It certainly has been interesting as a board member to hear what are the common threads of challenges and opportunities, and to hear the unique things from each school about how they've been problem solving and figuring out how to deal with all these issues. And I think it will give us all, it gives us all a better understanding on the board, as Tracy pointed out, about really what's going on and what you're doing above and beyond every day.
And
So,
one of the,
thank you.
I'm sorry, one of the big things that was crystal clear in just these 4 presentations was the difference in the number of students who have opted to be virtual learners in just the 4 schools. So it looks different at every single building. So we're trying to make district decisions, but every building looks a little different. So it's an interesting little nuance that I think is important that we point out.
Right, right. So we're going to move on now to school planning and design. Tracy Lambert.
I don't have a fancy slideshow or anything like that, but I do this every month, to be fair. So we didn't meet this month because Dr. Youngberg and Dawn Tamakos felt that we were going to let BT Lindsay get to work on the high school and middle school buildings and really get things straightened out. As Dr. Youngberg said earlier, we are 90% or higher in most of our elementary schools, working on the middle and the high school and moving it along from there. And then the other hat that I wear is being a member of school planning of the high school renovation committee. Yeah, it's getting late. The high school renovation committee, and which Mary Gallucci sits on with me. We are going on November 4th to the state virtually, and we are having a D&D meeting, design meeting, to have them approve our design specs for the high school renovation. Funding will hopefully come forward this July at the very latest, but we're moving forward with everything else on the go ahead from the state to, they said we're going to get the money and go ahead and keep moving forward with the project. So everything up to awarding contracts will hopefully be done by the time the money is awarded. We're very nervous. Well, I'm very nervous about next Wednesday and making sure that, you know, all of our ducks are in a row. And I think we have a really great team, architects and engineers and stuff like that, who are going to have us in a really good place for Wednesday. And I'm sure Dr. Youngberg will be there virtually with us, and we will be hearing what the state has for feedback and making some small adjustments. We've tried to be as true to the ed specs as we possibly could be. So here comes our adventure.
Oh, that's great news.
And
Great
just
news.
on a side note, I've been sitting on the contract negotiations for the secretaries, which we're starting, the administrators and the educational personnel, paras, not custodians, paras, security guards, tutors, that kind of stuff. Today we reached an agreement with the administrators association, and Ms. Kiss is making little remarks. It was really, they were a joy to work with, and I don't often say that I usually loathe negotiations, but I like being a part of this, and they were great to work with. It was easy, and we are coming up on the para one pretty soon, and then we're starting the secretary one today.
And custodians in November.
I get to spend a lot of time with Jess and Stephanie, so that's always fun too.
Well, thank you, Tracy, for being our board representative on all those. And as Tracy pointed out to me, certainly if other board members would like to, be involved, and she's not trying to cover them all herself necessarily, but she is at this point. So if you're interested, please let me and Tracy Lambert know, okay?
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, anybody have any questions? I think we're wearing people down at this point. There's no report from the executive committee. We haven't met since our last meeting, so nothing new on that front. So we're on to action items on the agenda. I'm going to make a proposal that when we get to number 3, I would entertain a motion to take action on 3 through 7 together because they're all related to grants. And I was told that we could do that. And especially since we have to do voice roll call votes, it could take forever. So
you need the motion.
Thinking about that when we get to number 3. We can do it when we get there. Okay, thank you, Katina. So the first action item is recommended approval of the superintendent's evaluation tool. I'm going to hand it over to Mary Gallucci, who has been shepherding this process.
Yes, I just want to say that we've worked as a board and for actually quite a while, and also as an ad hoc committee of the board to develop a superintendent timeline and evaluation tool. And I sent it to the board members, and I think we can include it probably in the minutes to this meeting. So I believe that what we want to do is say that we will use this tool, not just this year, but also going forward, since we've taken a long time to develop it. We do have some goals to insert into this year's tool, but I think that would be perhaps for the next meeting, we could update it. I don't know if there's any comment about that.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the use of this tool for the superintendent evaluation with the acknowledgement that there's still some goals to be added in.
Ilda.
So moved by Ilda, seconded, I think I heard Mark.
Katina.
Katina, okay. So moved by Katina, seconded by Mark, was that?
Okay.
Okay, and is there any discussion on this?
Just a comment to say thank you to Mary Gallucci for being such a good leader in this ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Katina. I was going to say the same thing.
Thank you, guys.
Discussion? So if not, Janet, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Ide?
Aye.
Dr. Gallucci?
A resounding aye.
Dr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Doyle?
Aye.
Ms. Lambert?
Aye.
Dr. Caban-Owen?
Aye.
Ms. Ray?
Aye.
Ms. Haney?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's a big deal. It's been like giving a breech birth to get to this point. So it's not because everybody has been, lately it's all been going well though. So thank you. The next item is a recommended appointment of a member of the Board of Education to the Health Account Oversight Committee. The board may remember at one of our recent meetings, we approved the resolution that was adopted by the town council. It has also been adopted by, approved by the Board of Finance, and all three of those boards are to appoint a designee from their board to represent us in the ongoing oversight of the health insurance accounts for the town and the Board of Ed. And Mark Doyle has graciously accepted the challenge to be appointed to this committee, and I'd entertain a motion to approve Mark Doyle.
Hilda.
So moved, Tracy.
Hilda made the motion, and
So moved, Tracy.
Okay, Tracy and Hilda.
Or second, whatever.
And then any discussion?
How about many thanks?
Yes. Many thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
For agreeing to do this. I know you will be a good steward on this issue. So
Thank you.
hearing no further discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. Janet, please.
Ms. Ide,
Aye.
Dr. Galucci,
Aye.
Dr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Doyle. I'm going to take his as
I
a
will abstain with all due modesty.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Dr. Cabana-Wynn,
Aye.
Ms. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Haney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we'll need to let somebody at Town Hall know about this. We'll figure that out, who we need to let know. Next on the agenda, I entertain a motion to adopt items 3 through 7 in one motion, but we need to have a
So
motion and
moved.
take action. So moved by
Second,
Katina.
Hilda, second.
Seconded by Ilda. Any discussion? Okay, this is not on those motions. This is allowing us to do it. So I'll entertain a roll call vote on that.
Ms. Ide,
Aye.
Dr. Galucci,
Aye.
Dr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Doyle,
Aye.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Dr. Cabana-Wynn,
Aye.
Ms. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Haney.
Aye.
Thank you.
So thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to for recommended approval for the submission of the state bilingual grant, recommended approval for the submission of the Title III Part A English Language Acquisition and Language Enhancement Grant, recommended approval for submission of the state after-school program grant for the Windham Middle School, recommended approval for submission of the state after-school program grant for elementary schools, and recommended approval for submission of grant proposal for general improvements to Alliance District School Buildings Program.
So moved on all of them.
So moved by Ilda, second by somebody. Second by Jaime. Any discussion? I'll entertain a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Ide,
Aye.
Dr. Galucci,
Aye.
Dr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Doyle,
Aye.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Dr. Cabana-Wynn,
Aye.
Ms. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Haney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're up to, at first I want to recognize all the work that the staff has to do to get these grant submissions in. So thank you. Last item on the agenda is, for action is approval of the budget transfers that Mark referred to in his report and we have in our packet, and I'll entertain a motion on that.
So moved.
Second by Ilda.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Ilda. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote then, please.
Ms. Ide,
Aye.
Dr. Galucci,
Aye.
Dr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Doyle,
Aye.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Dr. Gabon-Owen,
Aye.
Ms. Ray,
Aye.
Ms. Haney.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. The last item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak under public comment?
Lynn, may I say something?
Yes.
I would like to express my condolences to the high school staff for the loss of their school psychologist, Tom Campo. That was a huge loss to the district. I know many students who have had contact with him and has always been positive and wonderful. He also made doors. I don't know if anybody knew that, but he was a carpenter as well, and he ran the chess club at the high school. So he really gave to his population, and I'd like to express my condolences to the entire staff for their loss.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Tracy. And I would like to add that I would like to thank Suzanne and Mr. Pavone and all the social workers and counselors, psychologists that showed up at the high school to support the staff. Yes, we have all been very affected of losing our colleague and friend.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak under public comment?
I just want to add that Katina needs a thank you also. She was part of that whole response they threw together to support the students, the staff and the students. So thank you, Katina.
Thanks. Anybody else want to speak under public comment? Okay, before we adjourn, I just want to remind people that November is an odd month because we have Thanksgiving and we also have Veterans Day, which falls on a Wednesday. So our normal meetings would be like the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, but that doesn't work in the month of November. So our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 18th, which is the third Wednesday. So don't be thrown off by that, board members. That's when we're meeting. And if we have to have a special meeting about sports or anything else, we will certainly call one. But at this point, our next scheduled meeting is for November 18th. Is there anything else before I'll entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Ilda.
Do I get a second on that?
Second, Tracy.
Meeting adjourned at 9:43. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us.
Thank
Have a good night.
everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Safe
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, all.